Okay, is that running? I think it is. It's been a couple weeks since I've done one of these. I want to say pearls of wisdom, but more like discarded old marbles you find in an alleyway covered in tar and soot. Bits of wisdom. Anyway, real quick, just here my favorite part: getting my sun in my eyeballs and getting my heart rate up and stuff that we need to be doing whether we're young or old. It's super importante. But real quick, just wanted to speak to something that happened to me a couple weeks ago, and I have only myself to blame. And this topic has to do with some would call it the notion or the misguided belief in manifestation. But I'm a believer, and I've seen it happen to me repeatedly in the last several years that I've started practicing it. It being manifesting things that I need or want in my life. And without going too much into depth about the definition of manifestation, basically it's where your mindset is about something good that's coming your way or something you're dreading. The universe, which is from where we believe the manifestation comes from, or the ether, the quantum realm, there is science to back up a lot of this, and we won't go into that just on this video. But if you ever want to get more into what do I mean by the universe or quantum realm or the ether, look up or YouTube the double slit experiment, and you'll see a better illustration of the definition that I'm trying to give you. But that said, the thing about manifestation is that we'll just call it the universe for now. It doesn't differentiate between good or bad, what you want and what you don't want. It only reacts to what's inside your noodle and what you're thinking about and what's prominent in your thoughts. And so that is why it is so important to just focus on not feeling a need or a stress or that you're without or anxiety or anything negative, but in fact to feel only positive thoughts, positivity in your thoughts, in your actions. But like I said, when it's in your noodle, try to keep things not in a survival mode or in want mode, but that you are grateful for whatever it is you do have. And don't get me wrong, we all, maybe deal with issues of financial need or health needs. But instead of wishing or praying for something to come your way, let's use the example of money, because that's the example I'm going to give you here in a second. I've got bills to pay, and I'm going to wish and pray and try to manifest the funds that I need to pay those bills. When you should be thinking, oh, I've got this. It's the money's in the bank, like I've already obtained it. And granted, it's a little tricky here because you can't exactly write checks against it. Does anybody even write checks anymore? I don't think so. Well, you know what I mean. You don't have the funds to pay it right then and there, but just in your mind feel like you're not in need of those funds, but the funds are already there. So in my case, and it's a balancing act. Trust me, I've been trying to practice this for over 10 years, and I still have to, get my head around it. But it does work. It does work. So the example I'll use, it's a simple one. I had worked some contract work for my current employer, and apparently there was a misunderstanding, I guess, on my part, that I would get paid a stipend, extra money. And when the money did not show up in my account on a payday, I was like, oh man, I was kind of counting on that, chunk of change. And so I didn't want to complain, but I also needed to just bring attention to it. And so I didn't know, again, that maybe I was misunderstanding the pay structure for this contract work. And I got a hold of my boss, and she was very gracious and said, oh, I'm so sorry. I know that we discussed how going forward the change in your contract work would be paid. But, on these hours that I owe you, and it was, a big chunk for me, I'm going to go ahead and pay it since there was a miscommunication on my part. So I thought that was very gracious of her. Of course, I would have totally understood if she says, oh, you know what, I'm sorry, you just misunderstood, Neff, and just know that, going forward, this is how we pay. and just kind of write off the misunderstanding. Well, she went ahead and honored it and said she would pay it. Well, I wait a week, payday comes, and the funds aren't there. And she said, oh my God, I forgot to submit it. But before she told me that, I started thinking in my mind, oh my God, the few days before payday, I was only focused on, man, if this doesn't come through, I was kind of relying on this to pay some bills in my case, like everybody else. And they weren't there. And I thought, man, this is when I didn't see the funds in the account, purely my fault. Why? Because all I was doing was thinking about the what ifs, what if it's not there, or she's not going to pay it, and and that's my fault. And when I should have been thinking, okay, the miscommunication has been cleared. Going forward, I won't rely on these funds from this kind of contract work. But instead of thinking that way in a positive way, okay, the funds are there. She said they should pay them, and all is good. Well, because I've been thinking too much about the negative part of that, sure enough, on that morning, I woke up to that money's, not those funds not being there, and instantly I knew that was my fault. I had totally been thinking too much about it not being there, as opposed to, it'll be fine, the money's there, do whatever it is you need to do with it and go forward. But no, I did the opposite. So see, even after 10 years, I still find myself having to remind myself of the teachings, the stuff I'm giving you. I need to be teaching myself. So I swallowed it up to a learning lesson, an expensive one, but a learning lesson. And just I wasn't even going to send an email to her and do a follow-up, but I did. I said, you know what? I'll just leave it to the universe to decide on whether, this gets paid or not. And sure enough, she responded quickly and apologized and said, no, she had just simply forgotten to submit it, and was willing to cut me funds right then and there. And I said, no, just we'll wait for payday and, and go from there. So honestly, as I write this, I will see those funds tomorrow, but I'm not going to think about whether they're there or not there. I'll just assume that it's been paid and go forward with it. And so I think that's kind of what prompted me to do this little lesson in manifestation, and more so for myself than you all out there. But it does work. I like to, it's one thing to have blind faith, but I do like stuff that is backed up with science. And so if you're not too familiar with what manifestation is, or you've heard a little bit about it, and you are like me and you want a little bit of real world proof, right? Look up the double slit experiment. There's a lot of YouTube videos on it. Watch several so you can get the understanding of it. And it is amazing that we are creatures of energy. We come from energy, whether you want to call it a soul, consciousness, your spirit. I call it energy. And that the things around us, the particles that make up this planet, our body, the universe, respond to the energy you put out. And so, for what it's worth, lesson learned, and I'll probably always be learning these lessons, but I just thought I'd put that out there. All right, that is it. That's my I want to say, again, pearls of wisdom, but it's more like casted away, disregarded, broken marbles found in some alleyway. Bits of wisdom. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with that. All right. Talk to you again soon.